A very beautiful morning it is. Karibu sana. Thursday is here with us again. If it's Thursday, unajua ni siku ya clinic. Bench nimeweka hapo nje kama kawaida. Nimeisanitize. Watu wakae polepole msisukumane. It is the Relationship Clinic. My name is James Okumu. So glad to have you on board today as we have yet another discussion to enrich our marriage relationships. That's why we do the Relationship Clinic. Think back to when you and your spouse were dating. Oh my goodness. The passion, the fireworks. Oh my goodness. You know, you could hardly go a day without seeing each other, talking to one another. And I remember when I was dating my wife, we would go to she would come visiting and I would take her to the bus stop and we would stay there for like 2 or 3 hours talking. Even the matatu people knew us. Wachana now. Saini saa 10. Atapanda matatu saa moja. And for sure, we would talk and talk and talk. What were we talking about? I don't know. We just loved talking to one another. Oh, the passion was there. The excitement, the love was overflowing. Inakubeba, you feel overwhelmed. You see how you feel You know, things are looking good. Then you get married. First few years, things are looking good. And then after some time, you hardly don't have anything to say one to another. The passion is gone. The love is equal to, you're just there. That's not the way it's supposed to be. So how do you bring that spark back to ignite that fire? And how do you keep those fires, that passion, that love, you know, flowing and alive in your relationship? One of the things we hear is that familiarity breeds contempt. Sometimes we become too familiar with one another. We start neglecting each other. So today we'll talk about how to bring in that spark and keep those fires burning in your marriage, how to maintain that passion and love for one another. And even as we get into this discussion, I want to throw a question your way. What are some of the things that kill the passion in marriage relationships? Apart from familiarity, which I mentioned, what are some other things, maybe some habits here and there that kind of drain that passion and drain that love, and then you get to a place you just live together. You end up in the same home every evening because hakuna mahali pengine unaweza enda, but really that passion is no longer there. What are some things that bring marriages into that space? 20316 SMS line. WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. I've got an amazing couple who will be talking to us, their marriage counselors, and they'll be helping us identify some of these things that kill the passion in our marriage and how to reignite that passion and that love in your marital relationship. Yes, it is possible. It's work, but it's possible. Today we'll learn how to do it. This morning, we get to hang out with an amazing couple. I have Don and Cynthia Otieno. Karibuni sana. Relationship coaches, marriage counselors. Always a blessing to have the both of you. Karibuni. Have you ever officiated a wedding where that song played?
You know, you're forgetting that Bibi and Sisi Winans.
Yeah.
Are from the 90s.
I know, but the
young people today don't use that music anymore.
There are those who do. There are those who are hawataki love song ya mtu hajaokoka, wanaendeaga hii. Hii ndio love ya ukweli. Anyway, karibuni sana, guys. Even as we get into this discussion, maybe we can begin by looking at, before we talk about how to bring that spark and reignite the passion in your marriage, what are some key things that kill this passion? Because we all agree this passion is usually there. You know, by the time you're dating, before you step to the altar, in fact, by the time you're at the altar, the husband is usually thinking, Pastor Siumalize Haraka, we have other things we need to go and do. So, what kills this passion and this love?
Maybe let me go first.
Okay.
I think one of the things that kill the passion or kill the spark is when we have quite a bit of unresolved conflict.
Oh.
If we keep having conflict and we are not resolving the conflict, what will happen is that spark is going to start to fizzle and die. Mm-hmm. There's going to be now betrayal, a sense of betrayal, a sense of resentment, a sense of fear can set in place of the love that you possibly had. Mm-hmm. The other thing is when we just take each other for granted. You know, I like what you said earlier, is that familiarity breeds contempt. Mm-hmm. You now start saying, this is my brother. The guy even starts to fist bump you. There's no feeling of what you initially had, taking the time to smell the coffee. Another thing that I have found that comes up quite a bit is when we get so engrossed in looking for the money, taking care of the children, and doing of things than being available and present for each other.
Wow.
So lack of intentionality.
Okay. Don, one of the things a lot of people say is that as Jamas, once we marry her, we stop pursuing her. Before we married her, my friend, we did all things. Tulituma fair, tulikula chips, tulienda coffee, we took a walk in the park, all these things we do. But once we marry her and she's at home, it's a done deal. Let's move on. Tofute nini kashamba mahali. Is that something?
Yes, actually, that was going to be one of my points. I think for especially for the guys, that happens. But it's not that it is a thing he's decided wacha ni mlenge and do other things. But I think it is that focus. I have a goal. I have achieved. I put the goal here, and then what else is there to conquer? Is the sense that usually most guys have. It's not very intentional ati wacha nikuache ukae nyumbani, and I think it's the next kind of a step where now he's starting to look for, okay, hii nyumba tunalipia aje, watoto wataenda shule aje. So it's not every time it's a bad thing, but I think it's a focus that he has to look back and say, okay, as you're outside hunting, kuna watu umeacha.
Yes.
So there, yeah.
Okay. What other thing can you add that brings in that whole aspect of passion imeisha?
I think hiyo kuzoeana. I think when you have achieved, sasa ako nyumbani, I think you feel si yako hapa, so you tend to want to just move on, being sure that she's here. I think especially for the guys, when you start focusing more on provision, getting that there are other roles of a man. Where now kazi yako ni kwenda tu kuleta the money in.
Yes.
But you're forgetting their emotional and other roles that are required in the home.
Okay. Somebody is campaigning and anasema one day I should invite my wife to tell her side of the story. I keep sharing these stories. Where? Wanjiko yuko busy. One day, you never know. I told you somebody would send an SMS, Pastor Cynthia. Michael has sent an SMS. Michael says, Pasi, that was the song that ushered in my beautiful wife, Faith. I felt the heartbeat again. The show has ended for Michael. Michael, we have done it for you. We have ignited the spark. Nimekupatia off Michael, enda nyumbani.
Amen.
Pastor Cynthia, you mentioned something earlier, and I think it's something that a lot of couples don't know how to deal with. When we talk about conflicts, now many times when we talk conflicts, we think it's the big things, but I've realized that where conflict is concerned, it's the small things that, for me, that cause a lot of damage because we tend to ignore them, and then we begin to harbor resentment and sometimes even bitterness towards our spouse, and we don't realize it.
Yes. You see, the Bible calls it the little foxes. And we've got to realize, and we've got to understand that these two people that are coming together in holy matrimony are two very different, separate people.
Yeah.
I'm coming in with a different temperament from possibly a different family. Us, we used to do things this way. Then they did things this way. Then they can be cultural or racial differences. Now, if we do not sit down and have a very heightened awareness of what we are, where we are going, why we are going where we are going, then what happens is that conflict is going to be inevitable because, again, we are human beings. The fact that he's a man and I'm a woman is already conflict enough.
Yeah.
It's already conflict. So we've got to be very aware that even in keeping the spark going is that, are we dealing with our conflicts? Are we dealing with ourselves or our heads in the sand, or, burying them and acting as though that there is no conflict? Are we dealing with our day-to-day conflict? And it's the small things. It could be the way I even press the tube of toothpaste.
Toothpaste, yes.
For the last 12 years, maybe I've been pressing it from the top. Me kwetu tulikuwa tuna press from the top. Get the job done, put it on the but maybe for him, he wants it in a structured manner. You understand?
Yeah.
That's conflict. And so if after a period of time, that can be something that, that can cause the whole house to come down.
There's one time, I think there's one time I was hosting the both of you, and there's a story you shared, about how Dawn is so orderly. Kikombe yake inakaaga hapa. Vitabu ziko hapa. Usisongeshe. But for you, it's the other way around. And you shared how the both of you are able to solve that. Maybe you can share that again, because I think for me it was very beneficial.
Oh my goodness. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you, this man, even his dirty laundry is folded.
It's folded.
I think that, yes, anafold anaweka pahali vizuri. For him to go into the dirty hamper. Imagine who does that. That is conflict by itself.
Yes.
So everything of his is very orderly, very structured. And I don't even his desk, because now we work from home.
Yeah.
His work desk, he will not let me touch it, because I cannot sit, because my mind is going to be very haphazard. And for me, I am a very creative, I call myself eclectic. I have organized mess. I know where please do not touch it. That is part of my creativity. If you move, I remember there's I think it was in our second year of marriage. And we had a room which we used to call it the tsunami room.
Yes.
It was in our first year of marriage. We had a tsunami room. Now, let me tell you something, Pastor James. The tsunami room, because we had just relocated into the country, was the room that I would say, please, the whole house, I will clean and I will make it beautiful and amazing. But that one room, let it be my room where I can put my books, it can be untidy. It has my files. I don't have to make it look like you. And it was, I think, our season of trying to form into a couple. And I remember one day coming from work and finding Dawn had cleaned it and put everything in order and files. And it took me almost a month or two to find stuff.
Oh.
Because of how orderly it was. For me, it disorganized me. It was, for me, it just threw me off. And for him, he's like, I can't live like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Don't ever say something about that story.
No, that one is a prayer item. I think that one by itself has proven marriage is possible.
Yes.
And you actually grow into understanding your spouse, or understanding that you don't have to have high blood pressure, whereas there are some things you can actually arrange or do by yourself and move on. I think it comes from the understanding that upbringing and background will be different.
Yes.
You won't marry someone exactly like you. So getting to match and come together to form a system that works for you.
Yeah.
It's evident. It is a requirement in marriage.
Before we listen to some music, sometimes I've seen couples who get to this place where things are dry. The passion is no longer there. The spark is no longer there. And you come to the conclusion, maybe I married the wrong person. Or you start to look for that passion and that spark somewhere else, because here it's not happening. Here there's nothing. Yani here, hata afadhali Lazarus. Jesus said, come forth, and the guy just came. Here there's just nothing. Nothing. There's nothing to resurrect. And so I don't know what you think about that kind of thinking, because they feel it's justified. And we can't stay like this forever. So everybody, when it comes to passion and that, they look for it elsewhere. Jioni wanarudi pamoja, lakini maisha yanaendelea.
I think, Pastor James, that is so unfortunate when that happens, because you've got to understand we all go into different seasons. The Bible talks about Ecclesiastes. There's a time for everything. A time for seed time and harvest. There's a time for kupalilia. There's a time. Who said that you're always going to have the same weather, throughout? If actually God created seasons, which we even obediently walk in, how much more should we have different seasons in life? We are not always going to be constant and consistent throughout because we are human.
Yeah.
There will be days we have highs and lows. And let me tell you something. It's important for you to understand that, because there will be a season, especially when you are in the season of the childbearing, and the children are young, you're sleeping 2 hours, trying to work, your body is still healing. There's that feeling, especially between the second year of marriage up until the 7th or 8th year of marriage, you start to feel, I am tired, he's tired. I am frustrated because, of course, not only are you going through the childbearing, the children are young, you're being pulled left, right, and center, your finances are not working, and then you have the boss that is killing you. All these are your stressors.
Yeah.
How much more is that going to then come and become transferable into your home, marriage bed? So if you do not understand that, and if you do not prepare for that season intentionally, imagine what again. So you will go looking for a pseudo peace.
Yes.
A pseudo fire, when all you needed to do is to gather your firewood together and close. Because every time you see, for those of us who grew up in shags, when you wanted the fire to become warmer, you don't draw it apart.
Yeah.
Actually, ni kusindikiza kuni. You and it actually starts to, the sparks start to show up, and you're like, oh my goodness, there was a fire here that was burning. But it's because we drew it together.
Yeah.
Drew together as a couple.
Okay. We'll talk about what are some things we can begin to do as a couple to bring back that passion and that fire. But before we talk about that, Dawn, sometimes I wonder, because mostly, not all the time, but mostly, when we begin to talk this mambo, love, mushy, passion, it's the women who bring up this issue. And sometimes I keep wondering, do they have unrealistic expectations? Alejandro amewadanganya. They spend a lot of time on the screen watching Alejandro and sijui who, all these things, and I'm thinking, wanatupanisha mbao na hizi vitu. We'll talk about that shortly. It is the Relationship Clinic this morning. We are talking about how to bring back that fire and that spark in your relationship, in your marriage relationship. If you have a question, 20316 is the SMS line. WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. There was a question that came in earlier. Let me try and find it. This is Juma. Before we talk about Alejandro. Juma is saying, the story from our guest today is a reality. I'm in a courtship, and I can see the signs and symptoms of how disorganized she is. How do I still make her feel loved in my efforts towards bringing order in the house in a way that she won't feel less of herself? Nisaidieni.
Hey, I was about to say, teacher. Let me tell you something. When we talk about disorganization, I don't want us to think that it's clutter. Okay, it's some clutter, but you've got to understand that this person, possibly based on their temperaments, based on a family upbringing, based on also, like for me, I had lived alone for a very long time. So I knew my stuff, and I was comfortable with myself. I'm very confident about it. So as a couple, it's first be aware where you are, and understand that you're now living in very shared community. It's not, I'm no longer that single girl living by herself in her house. So that's number one. Number two, understand your husband's or your wife's temperaments. Because once I understood his temperament and his ideal for structure, let me tell you, when he has structure, he thrives. When he has structure, he's going to be creative. For me, I don't need structure. Me, I'll be creative without structure. Actually, structure, can you see how that can be different?
Yeah.
Once we understand each other, then respect sets in. All right? Then communication has to be very clear. So whenever he corrects me, because that doesn't mean now we live in disarray, whenever he corrects me, I can hear the correction from the standpoint that this is something we've agreed on as far as structure.
Yeah.
But when he finds the clutter, it is not a reflection of disrespect. It's a place of awareness and understanding that we are not there yet. You understand? So he does not, Don will not personalize it and become, look what you're doing to me. He will pick up and do whatever he needs to do, because from his mind, he understands maybe Cynthia doesn't see it my way, doesn't even understand the degree. You understand? So that's what I would say. Maybe
I think also you should weigh and see what percentage of that clutter versus the other things in your marriage. I mean, will this cause you to say this is not the right woman for me to marry? Or is it just a portion, but if you compare all the other good things that she's doing and say, hey, surely, I mean, I can overlook that. Because one thing people don't know is some of these things don't change.
Yeah.
So however much you say, however much it offends you, some of them don't change, because that is someone and that is all they know and that's their personality. So you will live with it. So if that portion or percentage is the one that's going to make you be scared or change your mind about this person, then I think the journey is long.
Very true. Very true. You know, I keep telling guys who are planning to get married, you know, when you look at this person, what are the things you don't like about them? Are you willing to live with him or her if these things never change?
never change.
Correct.
Because if it's a problem and you're expecting that once you get married you will change them, hapo mtakuwa na shida. Because I agree with Don, some things will not change, some things will remain the way they are. You know, let's talk about the Alejandro angle. Do we sometimes get overly ambitious, or do we have unrealistic expectations sometimes when we talk about this passion and this fire in our marriage because of some of the things we watch in some of these soap operas?
I think there's a percentage of that is contributed by Alejandro of TV, you know, and because when you see the lady watch that, you can actually see her get into it. You know, she's actually feeling this guy cares and all.
Yes.
You know, so a lot of that can contribute, because you'll find a woman will even ask you randomly as you're driving, do you love me? And you're like, whoa, where did that come from? You know? Because she's probably thinking of how this guy has been doing certain things in Alejandro, and starts comparing with that guy. But on the other side, like I was saying before, I think that's something, not that the men cannot do it. I think it is just that I am moving, what next? What are we doing next? That these seem to be mediocre and hiyo ni kidogo. Si naleta mkate. Si I'm bringing bread and milk. Why are you still, you know, that mindset also, I think sometimes as men we go wrong, because not that we don't want, but we forget to come back, pause and look back. There's someone who is emotional here in this cube of mine. There's someone who is emotional, someone who needs the tender touch, someone who needs, and we cannot ignore that. I think there's that space also for us to pause and think, you know. Yeah.
Great. So what are some things a couple can begin to do? That couple who moto iko karibu kuzima, you know, what can they begin to do to bring back that passion and that spark?
Amen. I would say first, as a couple, start to take inventory. Take stock. You know how you take stock of what do you have and what don't you have?
Yes.
Every one of us takes stock of your products and your services. You do an evaluation. So number one, evaluate. We are on year number 12. How are we doing? How is Dawn doing? And if you guys are very honest with yourselves, imagine that will be a very, very healthy conversation, because you cannot begin to ignite something you do not understand. Where umefika wapi? We usually ask couples when we're doing our clinics, we ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being that we are good, actually we should become coaches from next season, to 1, we need to see the judge. Where are you at in your marriage on a scale of 1 to 10? That is your way of evaluating yourself, because you will be so surprised. One can come and say, hey, Pasi, me, I'm at a 9.5. Their one is at a 4. And they came together believing that they were okay.
Mm-hmm.
So take inventory. And it's very important for your spouse to hear your number. If it's a 4, what will make me get to a 10? What will make me get to the 9? And so that then the two of you can now, after taking stock, you begin to say, what are the things that help me feel my fire for you? Mm-hmm. What are the things that makes him feel the fire? It has got to be very open. Communication is a critical piece in this conversation. Are you two open enough to communicate openly? Are we precise? Are we are afraid because of, yes, if I open my mouth, Dawn is going to feel accused.
In fact, on that whole aspect of taking stock of where you are, how do you avoid being defensive? Because it could easily turn into an argument. Because if my spouse begins to express to me that this is how I feel when you do this and do this, and maybe in my mind I'm thinking, but that's not my intention. Why are you blaming me? And that was not my intention. It could easily get into a situation where now it becomes a confrontation. So how do you avoid that so that you're able to listen from your spouse's perspective and not from your perspective and get defensive?
It first creates the environment. Create an environment that makes it a safe space for communication. Mm-hmm. So create it in such a place. Do we have a place that we can go talk and the environment is that conducive? Number 2, create the rules. Okay? Mm-hmm. Create the rules of engagement. Babe, when we talk about this issue, it's not about you, it's about how I feel. So create the rules, create the terms of engagement. Because if you do not have that, then if you're telling me if the environment is not conducive and if the timing is also wrong. So 3, timing, environment, and what was the other one? I forgot. And I forgot. So without that, guess what? You will find that the conversation or the communication may not hit the person. The person will become, why? The timing was wrong. It was after an argument that now you start saying, I don't have the fire for you. Yeah. We had an argument 10 minutes ago. Then that wasn't the correct time. If you don't have the rules out, the rules of engagement, you know what? Can we communicate openly? It is what I feel. Sometimes I usually say everybody's opinion is valid because it's their opinion.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be the truth, but that's how they feel. And they need to feel heard and understood.
Dawn, that's, I think for us men, hii mambo ya kufeel saa zingine hatui feel. Because just like you said earlier, it's like we move from one project to another. We are so project solution oriented. I don't know if this happens to you, because it happens to me a lot. My wife is sharing something. She wants me to feel her. Me, I have no time to feel. Me, I'm giving her solutions. See, wache hiyo kazi. Why are you always complaining about it? See, you forget about that person. Do you have to talk to them every day? Why do you keep going back to talk to them and they're hurting you? Leave them alone. I might go sort them out for you. They're saying, no, you are not feeling me.
Jemo, there is where now we need prayer and fasting, because the feeling that word by itself is so foreign for many guys.
Yes.
Many guys. I have my wife here alone, but I mean, there are times she's giving me a story and she'll even get upset that I'm not reacting like her, you know, siski woye, or I'm not, but I'm actually listening. In fact, I'm enjoying the story, but but then now that becomes, you're not feeling this thing, you know. But let's understand that it's not in a bad way, because I remember that used to give us a lot of conflict, like earlier in our marriage, when the kid sneezes, my wife would call the ambulance and call the hospital, just know we are coming, we need an escort. And me, I'm thinking, this was a sneeze. Can we wait a minute?
Yes.
Let's monitor first before you call presidential escort to take us to Aga Khan. Let's wait first. So I think there's that difference. We have to understand that, okay, the emotion is there. No, I don't operate with the high emotion, but I don't feel I dismiss her because of that emotional side of her. Because hizo ni maswali za Mungu, because he created us that way.
Yeah.
That balance has to be there.
Very true, very true. So we've talked about, taking stock, finding time to find out where you are in your relationship and how you can improve things. There's a statement here from Dennis. We'll look at it shortly. Dennis is saying, I think it's a big misconception that this dryness happens suddenly. I think it arises out of years of emotional neglect by husbands towards their wives and sexual physical neglect by the wives towards their husbands. So we'll talk about that, whether you agree with that or you think otherwise. Once again, if you have questions, msingoje mpaka 5 minutes to ndio mnaniambia 56 questions. No, if you have your 56 questions, ask them now. 20316 is the SMS line. WhatsApp number 0786316316. Okay, I can see the echo is still there. We'll see if we can manage with it. So back to the SMS that had come in earlier. This is from who? Dennis. Dennis says, I think it's a big misconception that this dryness happens suddenly. I think it arises out of years of emotional neglect by husbands towards their wives and sexual physical neglect by wives towards their husbands. Do you agree? Do you think otherwise?
I agree to a certain extent, but there's an assumption that the sexual connection also brings the spark. I think it's a culmination. Okay, we need to talk about whereas the emotional connection is going to be very important. The psychological, physical connection. So it's all going to be, you have to bring all that intimacy together for you to then ignite that which you started from the very beginning. It's important. It's critical for you as a couple to understand that whatever you began is not always going to remain the same. People are saying, I want to feel the way I felt the very first time I saw you. You've got to remember that whatever you had probably started off as puppy love or what do you call? Yes, but then you grow into love. I call growing in love. So even the spark that you're going to have for each other will even end up being even a more mature spark. It can morph into something deeper and more beautiful. And that's why when we were saying earlier inventory, take the inventory and understand what is it that drew you to me, apart from the fact that, you have triceps and biceps. Now you have changed. Does that change the spark? No, but you're still the same element. You're still the same person. What still is the thing that makes us have the mojo? And it's going to be very important for us to be able to write down that, take inventory and say, what is the thing that draws us together?
I think we forget that. I think that's very important. Sometimes as we go about doing life, children come,
Yeah.
umeanza kulipa ma school fees hapa na pale, we forget what was it that drew me to this woman? What was it that
Yes.
drew me to this man? And I think if we don't keep reminding ourselves of those things, then it's very easy to get derailed and to begin to focus on other things.
Yes.
What else?
And I think
Yeah, keep going.
I think that's where now we push the couples to remember that you have to keep doing some things, that remind you of those days. I mean, send each other the SMSs. Even if you are 50 and your wife appreciates that love text or that message to just find out how she's doing, date night, actually closing or delegating your work to someone else just for that evening that it is set aside for us, taking vacations together, some of these things are not just sinilikuoa, so nothing has changed. Ikichange nitakwambia. No, I think some of these things, just like any career, anything, you work at it. I think one thing many of the couples usually take for granted is they work at everything else.
Yes.
But never see a reason why we should invest in our marriage, why we should invest in growing us, taking us to the next level. Why is it that in marriage this thing should just flow?
Yeah.
Whereas you're putting effort and money and time in everything else.
Yeah.
So I think that's a space where guys have to realize that, yes, we have to pour into this bucket for us to thrive and to grow.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have the assumption that if he loves me, or if she loves me, then all these things will be automatic. Or if she loves me, she will do A, B, C, and D. And so some things we never talk about, we only get to talk about them when the relationship is going south. And we have all this bitterness and resentment because we had this unmet expectations. We expected because you love me, utakuwa ukinioshea nguo na wewe upendi kuosha nguo.
And Pastor James, the thing is that these assumptions are so dangerous. Mm-hmm. They're dangerous because we are assuming that we are a constant, we are the same, and that we will remain the same. We keep changing. It's almost it's important. I have to keep checking back. It's like the way we are driving on the road going to Mombasa. We have to keep checking the map. We have to check, are we still on the same page? Are we still on Mombasa Road? Did we detour anywhere? You cannot assume that just because I got into the car, that the car will reach Mombasa. If you keep checking your route, you keep checking your phone to make sure that Google Maps is telling you where you're supposed to be going, why can't you check on yourselves? Why should you assume that he should already know by now? We've been together for 12 years.
Yes.
No, he's not God. God is Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. The last I checked, Dawn does not have beginning and the end. He is Dawn. So keep checking back, and then humility. You two have got to be so humble and allow yourselves to learn. I keep telling couples in our sessions is that ask God to teach you how to love this person. And that begins, it's almost like go into the classroom of love. Teach me, Lord, how to love her afresh today. Teach me, Lord, how to love her this week, because today she is not even lovable. Mm-hmm. He does not have any lovable bone this week because we've had a hard week. You don't understand? Teach me, Lord. Let me tell you something. The best teacher is the Holy Spirit. He teaches us. And you begin to understand from God's perspective how he needs to be loved, because God created him.
Very true. You talked about going to Mombasa, and I thought there are couples who don't know where they are going. So there's no map, because why do we need a map and we don't know where we are going? So we just do life one day at a time.
Yeah.
Is that a dangerous way to be in a marriage?
I think so. I think definitely if you have no goal, if you have no goal or direction, as in any upepo will come and sway you, any roadblock will stop you, because there was no plan. And I think Pastor James, I think that's where also a lot of conflict comes.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of small things. Hamuna goal.
Yeah.
So a small thing like uliacha kikombe kwa meza can become a whole month's issue.
Yeah.
Whereas if there was a goal, we have a vision, we have a purpose. Where are we going?
Yeah.
Some of these things that we are calling conflict are actually just life. So they don't even stop us, you know. But because you have nothing to focus on, the tiniest of things can make you pause and stop and lose vision. And so, I think having a vision and a purpose, where are we going as a couple, even not as individuals, as a couple, what can we do? Where are we going? Can we help in terms of growth and direction?
Yeah. The comment here from Juma. Juma is saying that this thing of having a teachable spirit in men is a real struggle because of the extreme end of our ego. May the Lord help us. That is so true. That is so true. I'm almost out of time. Maybe you guys can give us your parting shot.
Okay, let me start because I want to hang on to that. Where are we going? And I was looking from the book of Ruth last night to a group of women, and I was telling them that when Ruth went to lay at the feet of Boaz, Naomi had told her, go lie at the feet, okay, and wait for Boaz to tell you what you need to do. That is so critical. Is that she's saying that leadership will come from him. He will give you instruction. He has the vision of where you're going. He will give you direction where you're going. Many times when we hear that she's not submitting to me, she has been laying at the feet, waiting for instruction, but there's no instruction, there's no direction, there's no. So it's very important that when you're talking about keeping the spark going and igniting something, is that let us be in direct alignment with the word of God. As she lays, and if you want her to submit, give leadership.
Yes.
That would be my number one parting shot.
Great. Don?
Right. I think for in terms of leadership, I think especially for the guys, let's keep the fire burning, not by just providing.
Yes.
I think many men are making that mistake of saying I'm providing. That's why someone can fly to Dubai and live there for 9 years and is sending home $1,000 every week and feel he's still sour. I think let's keep that balance, that there are other roles of a man, and the fire will burn when you are there to say hi to the kids, when you are there to say I'm sorry. That is leadership. You're still leading your wife to say, I'm sorry for what happened. You're still leading. Saying sorry is not is not a bad thing.
Yes.
You know, you're there to protect. Let's play the full role of a man, of manhood, and accept that all these will contribute in keeping this fire burning. It cannot be one log that you decide this one to ndio ndapepeta. No, it's a collection of logs, and we want all of them to light, and we enjoy a bonfire. So let's consider all, and let's keep the fire burning.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Always a blessing to hang out with you guys and to talk to you. You have such a wealth of knowledge where marriage and relationships are concerned. May God continue to use you, to bring to life marriages that are like Lazarus. We call them forth in Jesus' name.
Jesus' name. Amen.
Awesome. Well, I'm out of time for today. I hope you learned something. Where Pepeta Moto, what I could complain. Stop looking at greener pastures huko inje. They look green because the owners are pouring water on them. Pour water on your lawn and see if it will not turn green. And I love what this couple has told us. Let's learn to take stock. Wajiko, tuko na stock meeting. Stock taking meeting leo jioni.